outside job who dutifully was sewing. She knew how to sew, so she dutifully sewed the American flag for a bunch of men to go waving around as they went and played with their guns. That was Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross wasn't a real woman. No, because she stayed at home and she did the bidding of men. Susan B. Anthony, now there was a woman. This is what the left is trying to teach. So you think they would have made sure that this little girl would have known who Susan B. Anthony was. No, Susan B. Anthony wouldn't have had time and wouldn't have lowered herself to the fact of stitching up an American flag for a bunch of rabble-rousing rebel men. Absolutely not. She was more interested in going out there and advancing, women's rights. And if you're sitting at home, sewing, acting like a housewife, doing the bidding of men, well, geez, you're not at all doing being a free woman. Absolutely not. This is what the left is trying to teach about feminism. Because Susan B. Anthony was the original. They don't teach, Susan B. Anthony about Susan B. Anthony in any other aspect. Just that she was the first, one of the first feminists. Oh, man, she didn't sew. Yes, she did. She didn't do anything at home. Yes, she did. All she did was go out there and fight for women's right to vote. Yeah, she did that too. But she was still a woman. But we're not supposed to, the left doesn't want you to know that part. So this little girl had that mixed up. Oh, no. Without Susan B. Anthony, you wouldn't be able to have Hillary Clinton right now. That's she was absolutely the first powerful, feminist. So how this little girl got it mixed up is beyond me, other than the fact that when you're sending your kids to public school, that even the liberals cannot teach the kids properly to get their liberal icons right. And that's... it's amazing. So, and I bring all this up because, here we are on the 4th of July and we have people out there. I've also got a story about a guy who thinks that the American Revolution, 1776, George Washington, Founding Fathers, all that kind of thing, thinks that the Revolutionary War was a mistake. Yeah, I kid you not. So we have all this other wonderful stuff. But I wanted to take the time to really, because as many of you know, I was Thursday. I was down in the southern tier of New York in Horseheads, New York, which is just west of Elmira, New York, which is about an hour or so west. Horseheads is just east of Elmira, New York, which is about an hour west of Binghamton, New York, down South 81 on the Pennsylvania-New York border. So if you go directly west from Binghamton on the highway over there, then you eventually end up in Horseheads. And yes, there is a place called Horseheads, New York. Yes. And I was giving a speech for I think the Tri-Tier Tea Party. And yes, yours truly nailed it, of course. It was a lot of fun meeting the people down there and seeing how in such a small group of people, I mean, it's probably 30 or so, how many of them were running for local office. And when I say local office, I mean local office. They're running, for the local as school board and as town supervisor or on the town board or something. Well, that's where it starts. Tip O'Neill was famous for saying that all politics is local. And these people were starting to, take that type of tone, American representative democracy, if you will, American Republic, they were taking that seriously, and if they wanted to see change, that they were going to have to be the change. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, well, see, Rod, that means that you need to run. No, I don't. There's a number of different ways you can participate. Now, you can support those, like I can support those who I believe will do a much better job in public office and public service than I would. I can support people who I think would actually get elected. See, look, if I were running for any type of public office, elected office, I'd be like Donald Trump. My mouth would get me in trouble. And people would say, well, you're just too blunt. Well, that may be. Well, the Donald, he's having troubles, and it's a curious dichotomy with Donald. He's enjoying this meteoric rise in the polls, but he's also having to defend himself against a meteoric rise in negativity about what he says on a day-to-day basis. So there's this huge popularity boost that he's getting because middle America, especially middle class, well, dare I say it, white America. It's not just white America, but that's who people, that's who the left wants you to think is strictly the middle class now. It's just a bunch of white people out in Kentucky or someplace, hillbillies. But he's enjoying right now. People are saying, well, yeah, if the election, I'd vote for Donald. And in some places, Donald Trump is leading the pack over Jeb Bush even. So he's resonating. And he's hitting a chord with a lot of people, across different socioeconomic backgrounds too. There are some rich people who are saying, yeah, Donald, well, he's one of us anyway. He's a billionaire. And there's middle class people saying, yeah, he gets it. He knows what the problem is and he's going to go and fix it. And he even gets some poor people that said, yeah, Donald, he fully understands the plight. And he's going to help us, rise our economic status and help us get better jobs. He's going to bring manufacturing back to the United States so we don't have to sit around making $8 or $9 an hour anymore. We can get high-paying manufacturing jobs. So everybody is, for different socioeconomic classes are looking at the Donald and saying, yeah, what he says is a little bit true. Now, maybe, sure, he should probably say it in a different way, but, it's the Donald. He's the Donald. He's not backing down. He's not apologizing. Good for him. Don't ever apologize, for what you mean. I don't apologize for what I mean. Speaking of apologizing, we've got... George Takei was out there apologizing for his statement about Clarence Thomas, the clown in blackface. Well, he apologized for that. And look, the only reason that good old Mr. Sulu apologized is because he realized what he said was wrong. That it was a highly charged racist statement. No, it was. I'm sorry, it was, and there was a backlash against Mr. Sulu that you just didn't see it reported in the media, but it was, it was all over social media. I mean, people were they were laying into him. It was white people too. But the funny thing is that you had some liberal, ultra liberal blacks are saying, well, he's right about Clarence Thomas. But most blacks are like, no, this fool did not just say what he just said. We may think that Clarence Thomas was wrong in what he said, but ain't no way in hell you're going to get away with calling him, the N-word, because basically that's what blackface is all about. And that's pretty much. And look, Takei is old enough. He's 70 or something. He knows what blackface is. He knows what it meant and what it means. He knew exactly, but you know what? Since he's a nice guy and he's a liberal, he thought he could get away with it, and he got slapped and slapped hard for it. So now he's apologizing. Well, I'm sorry. Apology not accepted. Look, I'm not going to let him off the hook on this one. And don't get, George Takei is a nice guy. I'm sure I don't know him personally, but he seems like a really nice guy. He's out there, living his own life. He's openly gay with his partner. That's great. That's great for him. Speaking of which, there's some news on the gay marriage issue. I told you it was coming, folks. I told you it was going to come, and it was going to come fast, and it is already happening, and we'll cover that a little bit later as well. So George is out there living the high life, living the celebrity life, making lots of money at appearances and what have you, but that doesn't insulate him. He's obviously a liberal. He's an openly gay man, so it's not hard to believe that he would be, a liberal. He's Hollywood. I gotta tell you, I like he's got one of those deep voices that just makes you listen to him. But other than that, I'm not letting, I don't forgive him for what he says. I don't accept his apology. And I don't accept his apology because he knew what it meant to begin with, and yet he still said it. And the only reason why he's apologizing is because there are a number of people, even on the left, who are saying, George, that was just wrong. But you don't have the lamestream media laying into him, and you got some ultra leftists who are thinking, because it's okay to say that about Clarence Thomas because Clarence Thomas is just a sellout to blacks. He's a sellout. Sellouts ought to be, put in blackface. Yeah. So, no, I don't accept your apology, George. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry that I don't accept your apology. You said it knowing full well what it meant and what you were doing. I do not accept. You meant what you said, and you said what you meant. I believe that. There's no apology for saying what you mean and believe. It's not a true heartfelt apology. Oh, I'm so sorry I offended you, even though I did mean it. No. And I know George Takei is not from the South. Hillary Clinton, by the way, while I was not here in New Hampshire, she was in New Hampshire over the 4th of July weekend. And she was evidently marching in a parade up north of where the Bunker Eyes home studio is, in a little town called Gorham, I guess. And she was walking down the street, shaking hands, with support. I don't know how. Well, I wouldn't bother shaking her hand or any of them's hands anyway. But it'd be kind of, because if I shook her hand, I'd be asking her some serious. I wouldn't be letting God be asking some serious questions. Not that she would answer them anyway, but. People that could ask her questions or should be asking her questions weren't allowed to do so because they were corralled by a rope. That's right. Hillary Clinton was corralling her press corps behind a rope, literally. Now, if that were a Republican, can you imagine the outcry that would have come out of that? You can't limit the press like that. You can't hold them back. You're treating them like cattle. But here it is, Hillary, who doesn't want to be asked a real question, I guess. I don't know. Is keeping the reporters all corralled up with a rope. Yeah. you can't make this stuff up.